Yo, what's up?
Hey,
We are the Guest Perception Podcast, TGPP. What's going on? Co host, Amanda.
hey, Craig, how's it going?
I'm feeling great today. Yeah, I wasn't rushed like last week. Came down here, super rushed for many different reasons, but
Yeah,
I live a very busy lifestyle due to my autism, which actually we're going to talk about today
yeah, let's do
a
it.
little bit.
Yeah,
So, how the hell are you? How are you feeling today? What's going on?
I'm a little anxious always, just when I get in front of the camera. It's funny I was joking with you. I'm like, if it was my phone, I'd be like, I could just sit here like this and get really comfortable. But if it's this like live, I get a little bit nervous. I was a little bit high strung this morning. I had to drop Phoenix off at school, which set me back, but I was still on time, so things are going good.
Nice, nice. I don't know why this is, but I think it's from my multifaceted adventures, I guess you can say. Um, I've gotten used to being in front of people, cameras, whatever, and it's so funny sometimes. I DJ at a Gatsby party. Um,
Fun.
yeah, it was actually super fun.
Hmm.
But and it was the first Gatsby party I did, and partner asked me, he's like, "Are you nervous?" I'm like, "What do you mean?" I'm just, I don't know. I've been uncomfortable so many times in this
Hmm.
environment that I don't feel anything anymore. It's just one of those things. So, um, but uncomfortableness is good because I believe when we get uncomfortable, we grow, and I think that's the real key important factor in life. And I believe my autism plays a big part in me not really giving a shit.
But was that always the case? Like, let's just go back, reverse to when you were younger. Because I know for me, I was very, very uncomfortable growing up. I always felt weird.
I think I was uncomfortable. Like for me in high school, and I'll never forget this. And I would travel the hallways just all by myself and just walking like I had some sort of purpose, which I didn't. But it was just to create that feeling of belonging, right? Because I never felt like I belonged in high school. I couldn't connect with anybody. I couldn't relate. I couldn't have a conversation. I didn't know what to talk about, how to talk about it. It almost seemed like I was on a different level than everybody else, and I just didn't know how to really relate. So high school was very, very difficult for me. Very.
Yeah, I can absolutely relate. Beyond high school, there was before high school, I felt really uncomfortable because I had so many learning disabilities. I was kept into a separate room, for grade 1, 2, and 3. My stepmom would come in and help me with my reading, which was awesome. But then when I moved to grade 4, nobody knew that I had any learning disabilities. Somehow it got dropped at the wayside and I ended up failing grade 4. So that took a big, I was kind of a popular weirdo in grade 4. And then when I had to repeat it, I just lost all my friends.
Yeah, I was completely opposite. And I love this about we had the conversation that I don't know when it was. We've had lots of conversations actually, but we had the conversation of you being completely opposite end of the spectrum where you came from a place of no structure
Mm-hmm.
and me coming from a place of very militant, very, we're up at 5 o'clock. We're, having breakfast at 5:30. We're getting ready. Clothes are ironed out. No elbows on the table. The forks have to be lined up perfectly. All the dishes and everything. And it was super funny. But it's interesting because you come from the complete opposite aspect. So you actually have a different experience to share with others.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I had no structure growing up whatsoever. I actually had a conversation with my stepmom within the last year where she said, Amanda, you had no rules. You would just flop over and pass out on the floor, and someone would pick you up and put you to bed. And I thought, wow, okay. And it really caused a lot of issues not having any structure. So I'm curious about where do you think the middle would be? Because I had no structure and you had so much structure. Do you think that there's a happy medium?
I mean, balance is important with everything. I mean, I think too much of anything is not going to be good,
Yeah.
but then not enough of something is not going to be good as well. So, I mean, I really think that there's balance that's needed with every single thing we do. Too fast on the freeways, probably going to
Mm-hmm.
get you a ticket, but
Yeah.
a little bit faster than the speed limit, not going to have a problem, right? I mean, I think again with having that sort of happy medium of being in that sort of, and it depends on lifestyle, and it depends on, I mean, there's so many factors. It's hard to say unless you get really intimate and have a personal conversation with somebody, that and to know their story and their journey and where they're at and how they got, and it's really hard to step in somebody's shoes without really connecting deep. So I believe that that's a real personal question that it's kind of hard to, but again, going back to too much of anything is not good.
Yeah. Yeah. So for myself, I kind of feel as if I really, because I lack that structure, I really craved it and I still crave it. I
Mm.
like to do things repeatedly over and over. And, I've had this 1 year long standing depression that I'm just kind of popping out of. And the only thing that I've really been able to consistently do is my coffee stories
I
because
love
I've
those.
just been a mess
I love
otherwise.
those.
Thanks. Thanks. Yeah, I really like doing them and that's kind of where I've started with my structure right now. I've started now going back to yoga and this and that. And I look forward to a lot more structure coming. But right now I'm still a little bit of a at the beginning stages.
Do you think that structure is going to scare the shit out of you
No,
because you're not used to it?
I actually really love structure. I feel like that's the interesting thing because you are autistic, you've been diagnosed, and I believe I probably am as well. I'm just not diagnosed at this point, but I feel like it will really bring some great things to my life having a lot more structure. And is that something that with you having so much, do you feel like maybe just a little less structure would have maybe benefited you? That's why I was kind of curious about, do you think it would be more if you had a life more in the middle, a little bit more free with structure, mix that in a little baking pot together and, mix it up and
Yeah,
see
I
what
mean,
happens.
I'm open to anything at this point because again, I was so militant.
Yeah.
I want to see what's out there. I want
Yeah.
to try new things. I want to explore. I want to, if I've never done something, I'll just be like, okay, let's try it out, see what happens.
Yeah.
Right. So, to answer your question, to get in the middle of that, I'm completely an open book at this point.
Yeah.
It's important for me to make sure that whatever I'm involved in, of course, I'm cautious about. I'm with the right tribe, with the right group, with the right people, and that's another big thing that I never had the opportunity to be around people that really genuinely cared for me, were there for my ultimate lows, my ultimate highs, and everything in between. And you're
Yeah.
smiling because it's interesting. You're coming out of a stage on your journey, and
Yeah.
you're starting to evolve and become this beautiful soul, and just really give back to the world. And it's interesting how people are starting to reappear. And I'll let you kind of explore that a little bit more. But it's funny how you put that.
Yeah. I don't know. This has just been an obvious myself. I believe that my life was pretty traumatic. I didn't even know. I think just because of being on the spectrum, I went home a couple years ago and to a wedding for my niece. Or no, sorry, for my nephew's wedding. And basically, a couple people came up to me and said, wow, like spoke to my partner and said, Amanda's had a really rough life. We're really surprised that she's done so well in life. And I thought to myself, that's kind of weird. Did I have a rough life? And it actually resonated below the surface. And I realized, I guess it wasn't as perfect as I kind of thought, which would explain why people on the outside looked at me different. They could tell I didn't have structure. They could tell I was a little bit of a free spirit. They recognized that in me.
It's so fascinating because at this point you're using that, which
Yeah.
is really cool. A lot of people, and I'm a huge believer in whatever we have, no matter what the situation is. I'm massive on personal development. I love, me. I send you all kinds of stuff on IG all the time in personal development.
Yeah.
I believe that whatever we have, if we use it, right, if we dance with it, if we let it be whatever it is, and run with it, we can turn that into something that can be a blessing to somebody else.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. I feel like being in AA, I was in AA for quite a few years. It kind of teaches you to, where you are and where you're going. And it got into psychedelics as a part of my healing modality.
Mm.
So that I didn't really feel like it was appropriate for me to study and trauma and just to start remembering. I couldn't remember anything.
So fascinating. The first time I heard about a psychedelic, sort of how I thought, and when I thought about it, I'm like, that's super fascinating because essentially all you're doing is you're connecting with a deeper sub, because we have conscious and we have subconscious, right?
Right.
And I feel like that level. And again, maybe you can. I'd love for you to kind of dive a little bit more deep into that.
Yeah, absolutely. It does. I really didn't know what I was getting into as a young child. It's probably, I was maybe 15 or 16. I got into LSD and started experimenting with that. So I had this awareness that there was other realms because I had, done LSD and I had conversations with cartoon flowers, things like that. And I really had my mind kind of blown at a pretty young age because of that. And then many, many years went by. I maybe dabbled with some mushrooms back then, but it was always to party and to have fun. It was never for any healing purposes. So then I got into this relationship. I was starting to feel really closed in. Something was definitely wrong. The layers of the trauma in my life had piled up. I was now with somebody else who had just a massive amount of trauma.
Mm-hmm.
And the two of us were just like bumping the trauma off of each other. I won't get into his trauma, but it was like really, it was really basically growing my trauma out of the capacity that I couldn't withhold it within my body. I was losing my mind basically in that relationship. So I did a mushroom ceremony to start, and that was really profound. That was my first full blown ceremony, and that was, I don't know, maybe in 2019.
Hmm. Sounds like the relationship that you were in was like pouring gas on a fire, essentially.
It was. I feel like there's these things they say twin flames or something like that, or there's these other things. Ultimately, this relationship was two people that came together, that the dynamics of them, I feel like there was a contract written in the stars where we had agreed that he was going to help me level up and I was going to help him level up. But I think just where he was at in his consciousness and his trauma being substantially worse than mine, he wasn't able to level up. So he had to leave the relationship. And I was the one that just got to blossom like a fucking flower.
I love that. I believe on the journey of life, we're all meant to blossom. And when we're not watered or when we're not stimulated or when we're not trying to become and grow, because we're all meant to grow, we grow naturally.
Yeah.
We grow from being an infant to being an adult and beyond, right? We look at trees. Trees don't stop growing, right? They just keep going. They keep
Yeah.
putting their branches out. And
But trees get diseases
yes,
and they go stagnant
yes,
and they burn to the ground. They get hit with lightning.
yes,
Lots of bad things happen.
yes.
So not everything grows in a very positive manner.
Of course. And that's the beautiful thing about us humans, is that we have the choice to be around these things that cause us diseases, whether it be mental, emotional. And unfortunately, sometimes, the way our last session we had with our lovely Krista, there's some situations, unfortunately, where it's just where we've got presented with something and then it just becomes something where we're battling, right? So
Yeah.
I want to kind of get back to the ceremony. So I'm really curious to know, like, your first day of experimenting, how does that go? Like, you sit down, like, I want to be able to envision this. How can you
Yeah.
kind of put me in that space without? I mean, of course, we're not going to do mushrooms today,
Yeah.
but I'm kind of curious to know how does it work?
Well, basically, there's so many different ways to go about it. And right now, we have these quote unquote shamans that, you know, walk you through it. But that's not the route I went because I didn't feel a use for a shaman. I really just wanted to have somebody who I loved and cared for hold the space for me. And I feel like fundamentally that is the most primary thing that needs to be considered, is who is going to be holding the space for you. So people who have, say, you know, just a lot of trauma themselves, you don't want them holding space for you. Somebody who hasn't worked through their own shit, you don't want them holding space for you. Somebody who is, you know, basically doing it from an egotistical point of view just to get money, you don't want them holding space. So you need to just look within your group of people and say, okay, who do I find the most endearing? Who do I respect the most? Who do I love the most? And just go from there. That's the most fundamental point, is who is going to help guide you through. Then it's the set, you know, and your setting. And basically for us, we went to a friend's place and we had these little nightshades. We had my energy worker, Joanna, who came in and she held space. She cleared the energy because she works in the quantum realms, to just kind of move the energy out of the room and just to make sure that we were clear.
Mm-hmm.
It was a really intense ceremony. I accidentally overdid it because for some reason, and I was speaking with my friend Tina about this, she can relate, for some reason, things just don't hit me the way they hit other people. So if I have to go to the dentist to be numbed, I have to be double numbed. And
it sounds just like me.
Yeah, it doesn't work. Nothing works. I've had surgery. They've had to do, like, I've been awake
Anesthesia,
in a surgery.
Yeah.
Anesthesia.
Yeah.
They have to double it up. I just am a really hard case. So I ate 5 grams of mushrooms, which Paul Stamens had said was a hero's dose.
Wow.
And I sat there and watched my friends just tripping out, and nothing was happening. So I ended up eating 3 more grams.
Wow.
And that was 8 grams of mushrooms. And then I just blasted off, like, right out of this world. I instantly I threw up. And a lot of times, like with ayahuasca and other things, the throwing up is the initiation going into the ceremony. So I did end up throwing up. And then after that, I walked back into the room. And when I walked into the room, it was the flower of life, which is this flower. It looks like this geometric pattern was everywhere, like woven through the sky in pastel colors, in a pastel rainbow. And I had this very strong awareness that this is just something that's actually always there, but due to, I guess, conforming and the matrix and whatever it is, you can't see it unless you get deep into psychedelics. So I had seen this beautiful flower of life and psychedelic in this, like, pretty pastel color everywhere. And then I laid down to start doing my trip, and there was these paintings on the wall. And one of the paintings, basically there was 3 ape/human people on the wall, and I knew that these were my ancestors and that I had come somehow from these apes. It was just this inner knowing. I was like, whoa, look, those aren't even people. Those are animals. And they just had this vague humanness to them that I knew that this was actually, I was witnessing the evolution of mankind.
Wow.
It was trippy. Right beside that picture, there was another painting, and that painting had turned into pixels, so little squares. And there was thousands of little squares. And when I looked closely, each square would flip, and on every time it would flip. And I'm talking, this is simultaneously happening.
Jeez.
All these things are flipping, and I'm seeing starving kids. I'm seeing nuclear bombs. I'm seeing every single thing that humanity had done up until that point that had brought us to where we basically are now, which is not really a really pretty place, the world, where there's lots of tragedy happening and lots of poverty and war that we know are going on everywhere in the world. And I was watching it all. It was a complete trip.
Realization, it sounds like.
Yeah,
Wow.
absolutely. Yeah. And just for some reason, it was really resonating and landing with me. I knew that this was humans had caused this.
Is there anything you so I find this interesting. Sometimes we have, and I've done pot myself, and I've we've all had alcohol. Well, I mean, I
Hmm.
don't know, maybe not all of us, but I have.
Yeah.
Um do you find that you've had a realization that you've seen something that when you've had a ceremony, did you actually fundamentally see something like without being under the influence in real life that was related to your ceremony? Did you have any sort of
I
experience like
did
that?
actually. You want to know what's
I
really
do.
trippy?
Please.
Okay, so it's funny because here we are on this podcast, and basically, those apes, Joe Rogan, about a month after I had my ceremony, he tattooed the exact same thing that I saw on his arm. And I was tripping balls. I was like, oh my God, Joe Rogan, he tattooed the thing that I saw. I saw that. I saw this, blah, 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 blah. And then basically, what I've started to realize is this is very common. This is really common in psychedelic realms, that people continuously see the same visions because there is a connectedness there somehow. I would love to be connected to Joe Rogan, just FYI, in any way. Just the fact that he had the tattoo was really cool. But there is a lot of similarities. With ayahuasca, I went into this very much a circus with machine elves and things like that, which is really common with Aya. Now, I really wish that there was, you know, I really wish I had a more beautiful ayahuasca experience. I didn't have a beautiful one, so I'm considering maybe going back to her. She is considered a female. Aya is always referred to as a woman,
Hmm.
the grandmother of psychedelics. So that's what we call her. She's always referred to as a female.
Interesting. Wow.
Hmm.
Um I don't even know what to ask, to be honest. I'm trying to immerse myself in that moment that you're in, but I think, and again, this is where my curious brain goes. Like, I'm so curious to, like, I mean, I would love to experiment with that one day. I don't know. I mean, again, from what I understand, you have to be in number one, a very safe space. You have to have, the proper people around you. And again, there's so much garbage out there in the world these days that it's so funny. You just never know what you're going to get these days, because everybody has some sort of ingredient that they're adding. And, it's like
Hmm.
going to a restaurant. You order pasta from this restaurant, you go over here, it's completely different. Same pasta, but tastes different.
Aya is actually like that as well. So, I think when you go to Peru, you probably have a little bit more of a professional shaman who has been trained, because they start tripping very young. So they start going into ceremony with ayahuasca. Somebody who's going to be a shaman in Peru will start probably somewhere around 9 or 10 years old.
Mm.
They'll start using it as a teacher. So she is a teacher. She comes in and teaches us, and mushrooms are similar, although mushrooms aren't referred to as a she or a he. Mushrooms are just mushrooms, psychedelic mushrooms, psilocybin. And basically, ayahuasca is something that can come in and teach you about your history, your lineage, show you really beautiful things. After you do psychedelics, this is the most important part, I would have to say, and this is the part that is missing hugely, is the integration. This is such a sad, upsetting part of what's happening in the psychedelic world right now, is there isn't proper integration back, because we leave this realm. So it's, imagine you die, you go to heaven.
I don't know how to imagine that.
Well,
I've never died.
just imagine that, you know, you're here, you've heard these stories of people who leave, they go through a portal, they end up
Yeah.
someplace else,
Yes.
you know, and then they have to come back and pretend like everything is tickety boo.
Mm-hmm.
It is a challenge. I will tell you that, because you download information while you're gone. Your your brain expands, and receptors in your brain that never fired are now firing.
Wow.
And it is a trip and a half. So I would really love to see more integration when people come back from doing ceremony, as well as just being aware that once you do a ceremony, it can take a really long time for that integration to happen. It's not a 1 week or a 3 phone call session. It is years of integration. So you have to just be mindful of not overlapping. This is my personal belief, of not overlapping too many ceremonies without downloading and really integrating the information that came through.
I think we're actually downloading every day. Like every day
Yeah.
we get up, we put our feet on the ground. We're downloading information in our brain.
Absolutely. Except for these rubber soles. So I'm going to take off my rubber soles, because I feel like this is another issue, is we have rubber on our feet and we can't actually ground out when we have rubber. You have rubber on your feet. You're not grounding, bro.
I'm grounded. I'm internally grounded.
Right.
Just not rubber grounded.
Right. Well, it prevents us from grounding. So for me, what's been happening for me, I am picking up so much electrical charge that I am zapping everything. It's insane. My cats are like, "Nyeh."
So when we get out of here, I'm going to call BC Hydro and I'm going to disconnect my electricity. And if you can just
Yeah, I'll just hang on to
basically-
your
yeah,
wire.
you can just run the.
Yeah. That's kind of how I'm feeling right now. I'm feeling very charged just in general. It's physically showing up because I am continuously getting shocked on things, which is getting a little bit annoying. So I am not really too sure. I should probably call my energy worker and ask her what I need to do about this, because there is a lot of static around me. I probably need to meditate more and, like you said, ground out.
I got pretty shocked this morning. There was somebody that cut me off, and that
You
kinda
got
shocked
you,
me. I was like, "Whoa,
that
buddy,
shocked you,
hang
or
on!" Like
your
I was
reaction?
like, "Oh."
How
that-
did you
that- that-
handle it?
I don't know. I was like, I don't really get emotional with this stuff anymore.
That's really good.
It's really strange. I used to get like, and I think it goes back to our younger years of, and again, I love my parents. I love my family. But my dad, he's just so like, if somebody does just the absolute smallest thing, he's all over it. And for me, I'm just like, and again, I love my parents to death. I love them so dearly. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for them.
Yeah.
But I believe that, I've tried to adapt, a level of recognition where it's like, okay, I can be emotional with this, but it's not going to do anything. All I'm doing is just incurring all this anxiety and anger and pressure and stress and whatever inside of me, and it's not doing anything. The person still just did what they did.
Yeah.
I'm just working myself up over nothing.
What would you say would be one of the best things that you got out of that, your relationship with your parents? You said it was really structured, but if you could have one takeaway and be like, you know what, I really am happy about this.
We were brought up and we were always taken care of. They always made sure that there was food for us. My mom and both my mom and my dad, they worked. They were workaholics. They made sure that we were always fed. As you can tell if you look at me, I was fed very well. Sorry, I had to say
you
that.
look great, Craig. not to worry.
But my parents were just, they're the best parents in the world. I wouldn't ask for any other parents, but for my footsteps, my footsteps have taken a much different path, and it's interesting because it's lonely. My path has been lonely, but that's okay because I know there's one person sitting right in front of me right now that's on this journey. And I mean,
I
I've-
only get along with autistic people. So
Well,
what does that tell you
yeah.
about me, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, again, and I have a lovely 4-year-old and my wife as well. It's such an interesting journey, but it's so fascinating. Our home life it's like I'm actually a pretty quiet person at home,
Mm-hmm.
and the reason why is because it's hard for me to connect. It's hard for me, to really. I love to connect to people at a deep level.
Yeah.
Right? I don't like to. I'm not like, hey, how's the weather? Oh my God, yeah, we're gonna get clouds tomorrow. It's like, fuck. I don't want to talk about that. Like,
I know.
great, there's clouds tomorrow. Excellent. What's deeper? Like, let's
Yeah.
talk about something meaningful.
People are very restrictive, and I find that this is kind of my take on autism is I feel like autistic people come into this world a little bit more organically, and they don't seem to structure themselves the way the rest of society does. And it's almost like you feel the pressure of society trying to conform you into this box, but just because of how we came out, it just doesn't work. We're unconformable. For some reason, we can't conform into the normal, you know, brain pathways that everybody else seems to take. And that's one of the things that I experienced growing up was a lot of shame from the outside world as to, because I was never able to behave in a normal manner. I was kicked out of all my schools. I always did weird things. I can remember my best friend's parents growing up would always say, "Oh, Amanda, you're always in it for shock value," but that's just who I am. Sometimes I do it on purpose. Sometimes I just don't understand that saying what I'm going to say is going to be super shocking because I'm thinking it. I don't understand I believe because of the autism that this isn't going to land on other people. I don't have the restrictive barriers that other people have had, and I certainly don't have them now.
I was actually like that when I was younger. I actually, my school situation, I've been into, oh my God, maybe more than two handfuls that I count, just moved around all over the place and with schooling and stuff and whatnot. So I've been all over the place, but I think I've found home. I really have. So I think it's just it's all about really us finding home on whatever journey we're in, right?
Yeah.
I believe that when we find a place called home, no matter where we are in life, it's exciting, and it just gives us a place to grow and a place to give and serve. Because really, we're all on this planet just to serve, right? So,
Yeah.
I am always looking to develop. I'm always looking to learn, and I have found home. But home is. It's interesting when you find a home, you have to furnish it.
Yeah.
Right? You have to put all the tools in it to cook, to make the ingredients, to put the pictures up, to make the home look how you want it. And I found the home, and now it's just a matter of me putting all the beautiful pieces inside.
Yeah, no, I can definitely relate to that. I feel like, I have the home, but right now where I'm actually going in life is really just trying to figure out who I can have around me as who are my friends, because I did do some other TV shows and things like that in my life, which we can talk about another day, but it created this persona that is not me. I just am a very blunt person, and so you can take snippets of that and turn it however you want. But I'm at this place in my life where I really just want a small core group of people around me, mainly because I physically pick up other people's energy and I get sick. Not cold sick, I get a migraine almost immediately. So if I have a conversation with somebody that is not resonating with me on the same frequency, I either will get this really harsh burning in my stomach immediately, or within a day I will get a migraine. So it kind of depends. Sometimes I just get the immediate burning in my stomach, like, walk the fuck away, Amanda, walk the fuck away,
Oh, I got COVID, or, oh, I need to go to the washroom. Sorry, guys.
Yeah.
I've done that so many times where it's like, oh, sorry, guys, I got to take off. I'm feeling whatever that, and then,
It's truly like one of those, it's not you, it's me. It's
Yeah,
not you,
yeah,
it's me.
yeah,
It's truly
yeah.
one of those moments. But in reality, I think once you your frequency changes, because I was really in the dark with a lot of things in my life. I didn't understand why I was dating the losers I was dating. I didn't understand, why I was the way I was. I didn't understand that maybe I was autistic. I didn't understand any of these things. And so through life, I kind of have figured out a lot more about myself. And I know I have to keep my circle pretty small, and that's okay.
Well, the saying is you are who the average 5 people you're around, right?
Yeah.
I probably said that wrong, but that's okay. Whoa, I think
I always say birds of a feather fly together.
Yes.
That's my line. Birds of a feather fly together. I'd meet people and they themselves, I would think, were totally great, and then they would have this entourage of fuckery all around them, and I'd just be like, "Ooh, what is wrong?" And as you could say, grew up or came into myself, I realized, okay, yeah, no, this is a real thing. Birds of a feather fly together. And I'm a phoenix right now. I'm a different kind of bird, and I kind of burn people around me right now because I just need to have my space, because I'm in the process of spreading my wings.
I have at least 5 questions right now, but I know we're running out of time, so I
Well,
won't
actually,
get there.
we have 5 minutes. So
Oh, do we?
yeah, we have 5 minutes.
We have 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Well, first question is that what was the turning point for you for when you? Because you mentioned you're just coming out of everything. What was the turning point? What helped you sort of like? Because there's got to be that.
Well, I feel like there wasn't a specific thing. It was just all of a sudden I had this realization that among my friend groups that nobody has shown up for me. And I don't know if you can relate to this with autism.
I can.
I don't pick up on social cues very easily. I can make sure that there's no danger because of my PTSD, but I don't pick up on if people don't like me. I don't pick up on if people don't actually like me for some reason, and I just continuously try to befriend and I had people in my life that had been there long standing that had basically never shown up for me once. It was pretty sad. I'm pretty resentful about it still, so I'm still working through that anger. Because, it's a bit of a rude awakening when you wake up and you just go, hey, I just invested 20 something years and you've never been there. Or I've just invested 10 years and you can't even show up. Or, bring me soup when you tell me you're going to bring me soup. That's a,
Oof.
you don't expect people to show up. And that's why I've really had to narrow down my circle of people, just based on the realization that it needs to be a two-way street.
Yeah, we were actually talking about this yesterday as well with the one in the two-way street, and I had a great meeting with a dear friend of mine, and we were talking about this one-way, two-way street and how it works, and really just the experience we if somebody's just taking from you. And I mean, naturally for me, I'm a giver. I love to give. I love to, I asked you the turning point. It was, when I heard this, whatever.
Right.
But when you help enough other people get what they want, you'll get what you want.
That's always been my take on life. Is I've always been very much, a caretaker. I like to be of service. I feel like at some point we'll get into this later, because it's kind of weird. I feel like at some point, like I'm very specifically drawn to Jesus Christ, and I feel like not the religion or anything, and I feel like he washed people's feet, and I kind of feel like that's something I enjoy. I love taking care of people, but then there has
I'll just
to be
take my shoes off here, and we can get a bowl.
I haven't done this yet. I haven't washed anybody's feet, but it is actually something I even thought about, because I really do like being of service. So I get that. But I needed to be of service within boundaries. Yeah. And not being taken advantage of.
Man, guys, there's so much here. We are definitely going to be here again doing something else. And honestly, it was so fun today because I have no script. I just came in and I'm like, and same thing with you. We're just like, what are we gonna talk about? I'm like, fucking, I don't know. You don't know. Whatever. We'll just talk. We'll just talk. And
No.
that's the beauty of just really just getting out of your comfort zone and just showing up and just going there and doing it. And
Yeah.
you start to just get comfortable being uncomfortable, right? So I think, I'm super excited for what's next because I know we have a lot of great stuff coming for you viewers, for everybody. And, it's going to be really
Great
fun
content.
and exciting.
Lots of great content
Um,
coming.
And sometimes you will see me, sometimes you won't see me, sometimes you will see our lovely Amanda, sometimes she won't be here. We'll just,
Yeah, we're
but
just going to
stay
kind of
tuned.
go back and forth, and basically, yeah, I think that I like the idea of you and I having our casual talks and going over topics every other
Yeah.
week. Just one gives us a chance to organize our guests, but also, to dig deep, because I have so much and you have so much to give just within your own experiences about autism and me, just my life. So yeah, so basically that's today's guest perception.
Yeah, the GPP.